What is up, sports geeks? It's your host Josh here, back with another episode. Joined by Alec here, as always. We're hopping right into it, not beating around the bush at all today. We have 6 players you need to be starting in fantasy football this week. Really quickly, I do want to touch on the 6 that we had last week because I do think this would be beneficial. So I said Rashee Rice, Christian Watson, and Zamir White. Zamir White went under his projection. Watson was right around his projection, and Rashee Rice went over. I'm putting you on the spot here, Alec. Do you remember your 3?
I don't know if I do.
If not, I can pull them up really quickly here, and then we can see how they did on their projections here. So you had Jackson Smith and Jigba, which you went just below. Kind of not a great week from him. Brian Robinson Jr., who did have a very good week. And then you had Jerome Ford as well, who had a late touchdown and a decent week from him as well.
Yeah.
So we went 4 for 6 on last week, and Zamir White and Jackson Smith and Jig both were not obviously we weren't
no bust. We had no bust last week, which was good.
Yeah. Yep. Completely agreed. Okay. So we got 6 people today, though. I'm going to send it over to you for your first one. Last week I took the first one. I'm giving it back to you here.
Yeah. Sweet. So I'm going same guys I did last week. One of them. I'm going Jerome Ford this week. This is going to be a theme for me. I think the Browns bounce back big this week. Just how the NFL works. You have a terrible week. Usually you bounce back the next week. Kevin Stefanski, they're going against the Jags. I think Jerome Ford is going to have a big workload this week. And with catches, with runs, look for him to, score a touchdown or 2 this week, I think.
Yeah, the other thing, too, is Deshaun Watson, which we just talked about in our NFL talk, which is getting uploaded pretty much the exact same time as this. So, yeah, if you haven't listened to that, make sure you go check it out. But Deshaun Watson looked terrible. I do think that very early on, they try to just get the ball in the hands of playmakers and get him working, right? Can you get the ball in a screen pass to Jerome Ford? Can you just throw a simple Texas route to him? Or can you throw a hook to Amari Cooper? Can you throw a slant to Cooper? Like simple routes to get Deshaun Watson a little bit more confidence than what he's got right now because he looked terrible. But no, I'm completely with you there on Ford. I love that. Yeah, I love that pick there. I have somebody who also you said last week, so I'll get them out of the way here. Brian Robinson Jr. He's got the Giants matchup here. If you watch the Giants-Minnesota game, not a good game to watch at all. If that was the game you had on, if that was the only game you had on during the 1 p.m. slate, you probably need to see a therapist. But I mean, Aaron Jones looked great though. I mean, it was repetitive 10 to 12-yard runs from him. He looked great. This Minnesota offensive line is not even that good either. I think Brian Robinson Jr. is going to have a great week this week. This Giants defensive line is just not good. And I also think that it's going to be a positive game script for him. And there's not going to be many times where Washington's into positive game script, which I think is kind of why Brian Robinson Jr. was being drafted where he was. This week is one where I think he will. So I would expect between 70 and 90 rushing yards from him, maybe a couple catches as well. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if he finds the end zone here this week.
Yeah, Austin Eckler is so washed. That's not a hot take. He had that one good reception over the middle where he broke a tackle for about 17 yards.
Yeah.
He's cooked. I mean, it's over. He had 2 rush attempts. They don't view him as a runner. So in a positive game script, Brian Robinson said James Robinson. Wow, throwback. Brian Robinson might get, 15, 20 carries. And in a positive game script, he could go off this week for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't be surprised at all. I mean, if we're gonna go burning hot here, I wouldn't be surprised if he flirted with 150 rushing yards this week. Mm-hmm. I think that's kind of like that's a ceiling, but I wouldn't be surprised if he had a career week this week because it's kind of setting up for him to do so against the Giants. Send it back over to you though for your second player here.
Yeah, so I'm going Tony Pollard. I think the whole fantasy community was way off on Tony Pollard.
Yep.
Tony Pollard had 19 touches. Tajay Spears had 4 or 5. This isn't close, by the way.
No.
Tony Pollard is their guy, and they're going to ride him until he either dies on the field or gets hurt. So Tony Pollard is the man in Tennessee. Will Levis isn't very good. I'm just objectively, he did not look very good. The meme with his hands on his head, that is going to be a meme.
Was terrible, by the way.
Yeah, that meme is going to not be the Rodgers carrying out the NFL flag meme, but it's going to be it's going to be a good one.
Yeah.
But Tony Pollard's the man there now. They're playing the Jets this week. I could see it being dump-off city potentially in a negative game script. But as we saw last week, maybe the Jets' run defense just isn't very. So maybe he could average 4 or 5 yards a carry this week as well.
Yeah, no, I love Tony Pollard. I had him on my list of he was the 4th player of my 3 players, so he barely missed the cut. So I'm happy to hear that you had him because I'm with you. We were all wrong about the Tyjae Spears against Tony Pollard. Pollard's their guy, and I do think that it's going to be a negative game script. I do think that because I think the Jets offense is going to have a bounce back week and put up points, but I don't think the Jets defense. You're not going to throw against the Jets defense. Let me just say that. With the weapons that you have, D-Hop is old, Calvin Ridley's decent, Will Levis is terrible. You're not going to be your game plan is not to go and test Sauce Gardner with Calvin Ridley with Will Levis trying to feed him the ball. I hope to God that's not Callahan's play their strategy coming into this. So I like Tony Pollard a lot there. I'm going to stay running back theme here. And I know we both have A receivers, but I'm going to stay running back theme here. And I'm going against the Carolina defense because it was just atrocious. And I'm going with J.K. Dobbins. He looked great. 10 carries, 130 yards, touchdown. He had the 60-yarder. He had a couple other good runs. This Chargers offense is a ground and pound offense. They don't have the receiving weapons to not be. They kind of have to be. And Harbaugh, that's how he ran at Michigan. That's how he's going to run it in the NFL. Their offensive line also is good. You have 2 good tackles. Joe Alt, we talked about him all mock draft season. He's a stud. Rashawn Slater's a stud. You have great tackle duo. And I think that Dobbins, week 1, you're kind of toying with it, right? Who's going to get the touches? Is Hill going to get the touches? Are you going to give them to Dobbins? Who's it going to be? Or is Gus Edwards going to get the touches? Not Justice Hill. Is Gus Edwards going to get the touches? Is Dobbins going to get the touches? And Dobbins, they kind of split on that, but Dobbins won the backfield week 1. He had 13 touches week 1. I would expect him to be in the 15 to 20 range this week. Probably that 15 to 17 range more likely, but I love Dobbins here.
No, I love Dobbins. Dobbins, if he's available in your league and you have a fab to spend, you could spend 50% of the fab. He's one of those guys where if you went no RB, he could be your league winner. If he stays healthy, he could be your league winner. Also, be on the lookout. If people are dropping Gus Edwards, pick him up too. Because with J.K. Dobbins' injury history, he would essentially turn into J.K. Dobbins if J.K. Dobbins gets hurt. Or maybe they alternate weeks, big weeks. We don't really know yet. So be on the lookout for that. But I love J.K. Dobbins this week, and then especially this week with the positive game script. But rest of the year, I love him too.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too is Derek Brown's out. This Carolina defense had last year. You look at last year's Carolina defense. There's 2 good things about the defense. It's Brian Burns and Derek Brown. Neither one of them is playing this week, and this is the first time they haven't had either one of them. I would fully expect for the Chargers to run for 150 plus yards this week. And if you're telling me that they're going to do that, I think 75 of them are J.K. Dobbins, at least.
Did you see the Chargers' nickname for Joe Alt?
No, I didn't.
On their Twitter, it was Control Alt Delete, and it was like a Twitter. It was actually pretty cool. It sounds like when I say it, but it was actually pretty. The tweet was pretty cool.
Yeah, that is good.
Because Max Crosby had no pressures against him.
Yeah, that's crazy. First game ever in the NFL, and you just faced off against a top 5 for sure, maybe top 3 pass rusher.
The difference between, and I just want to say this real quick, the difference between watching a college edge rusher versus the elite guys in the NFL. The elite guys in the NFL, it's like watching LeBron play basketball. It's just the level is so much better. The fact that, I don't know, just the fact that J.K. Dobbins, talking about J.K. Dobbins, could tear his ACL and then tear an Achilles and still rush for 135 yards on 10 carries is unbelievable. He's like a physical freak.
Yes. He is 2 seasons of being healthy away from being in 3 years a second-round draft pick in fantasy football. I love Dobbins this week, especially because positive game script, terrible defensive line for Carolina. And I like the chances of him punching a touchdown.
Yeah, and you talk about a guy who averages like six and like something per carry in his career. So if he's healthy, he's unbelievable. So I like that.
Yep, absolutely. Send it over to you for a wide receiver here as we close this out.
Yeah. So following the Cleveland theme, like I said earlier, I'm going to Amari Cooper.
Okay.
It's just a positive regression. He had 9 targets last week. Deshaun Watson looked like a pile of poo. And he might probably still continue to look like that because I think he's just the confidence is just zapped. I mean, it's not there anymore. He's a shell of himself. And, but Amari Cooper, even last year, I know it was Joe Flacco, but if the targets are there, it usually means that the positive regression will eventually come. And Jacksonville's DBs got cooked last week by Waddle and Hill. So I like him to kind of bounce back this week.
Yep, I like that. I mean, I was just talking about it earlier, right? With I think they're going to get the ball into their playmakers' hands. Amari Cooper is one of those guys. And 9 targets. I mean, there's a clear effort to get him the ball. And you see that. And they really, I mean, they didn't even like play really, late in that game either. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if they get. I mean, if he goes 10, 12 targets here and goes between 7 and 9 catches, wouldn't be surprised at all. So I like that a lot here. One, my starts here, I have 2 of them, same team, and it's just the Tampa Bay receivers, Godwin and Evans, and it's against my Lions. I understand that they're 7-point dogs though, and I think there's more to it than just the fact that they're playing the Lions. 7-point dogs, you're going to be in a positive game script in that sense, or negative. You're going to be a negative game script.
Yep.
And so for throwing the ball, that's positive, right? So they're going to be getting a lot of targets. Wouldn't be surprised at all if both of them put up 60, 70, 80 yards. And from what we just saw with what Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay did to the Lions, using the motion to get short passes was absurdly productive for them. Wouldn't be surprised at all if I would hope that Todd Bowles' game plan is to do something similar to that because it was proven to be very effective against the Lions. Against the Lions. I think that both of them probably combined for 150 plus and 15 plus catches. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if they both have just great weeks. Young defensive backs, we've talked about in the NFL talk here too, that the defensive backs are young. They're new to the system. I don't think it's very long. I think by week 7 or 8, Aaron Glenn has these guys playing how he wants them. They're not playing there yet. And as a Lions fan, I'm hopeful from a football sense. I think they're going to get there. They're not there yet. Fantasy football wise, play the receivers they're playing against them.
Yep. I think receivers for the first year, right? 6-7 weeks against the Lions will probably be a smash play.
Yep. Completely agreed there.
Yep. Because, and they've also been prone to shootouts in the past. So, because in a negative game script, it doesn't really matter even if the DBs are great, if the other team's thrown the ball 50 times, they're going to get yards. It's the NFL. So
one other player I want to touch on, I wasn't really even thinking about it until now, but he is, in my mind, an absolute must start, is Jameson Williams again this week because Amon-Ra is going to get his. You and I were texting about this. Amon-Ra is going to get his. Goff threw for like 200 yards. Amon-Ra had 12? When Amon-Ra has 70, like he's probably going to have most weeks, Goff is not going to only throw for 200 yards most weeks. He's going to throw for 250 to 275, in which there's plenty of room there. And so JMO, it was clear to me that there was an effort to get the ball in his hands in positions in open field. And we saw it at Bama and we saw it on Sunday night, absolutely lethal in those situations. I mean, he needs 3 catches to be fantasy relevant. And he's going to take all of them for 30. And I mean, you're looking at 12 points there. I think JMO is a must start until we see otherwise, in my opinion.
JMO looks fast. It's just if JMO can stay healthy, and JMO cannot bet on WNBA games at the facility. That is JMO's downfall. But if he can stay off of FanDuel and stay out of the training room, he could legitimately get 11 to 12. I actually believe that.
Yep. Completely agreed. And he doesn't have to stay off of FanDuel. I mean, he just can't be on a team facility.
Like facility. I mean, come on. Which is also like, honestly, that's such a dumb rule that you can't bet on like NBA games at the facility. That's just stupid.
Yeah. If you're allowed to bet on it outside the facility, you should be allowed to bet on it inside the facility. But that's a topic for another day. But he can still have some fun. Let's not be.
Yeah, I know. And he has swag. I love watching him play because I don't know if you saw him after that David Montgomery touchdown in overtime. He was talking some trash.
Dude, like the entire team celebrated, and he's like up in, I think it was Cam Curl's face, just like doing like finger guns right at him. And I'm like, dude, holy smokes.
Yeah. It was fun.
No, my dad and I both, we just have a soft spot in our hearts for J-Mo. I don't, like every single time, like I remember like thinking back, I know I'm not going to sit here and ramble about the Lions for too long, but last year in the Dallas Cowboys game when he had that like 60-yard bomb and just over the middle, not even touchdown, but the 60-yard bomb, I was like home watching it. My dad and I were just going nuts, like J-Mo, like
this is your year you're tripling down on J-Mo this year. So it's this year or bust. I'm not believing you next year. If you quadruple down on J-Mo, if he plays bad this year, I'm out.
I can promise you I won't be quadrupling down next year on J-Mo.
Okay, you won't have to because he looks great.
Yeah, no, he does look great. But so those are 6, maybe 7 if we talk about J-Mo a little bit, maybe 7 guys that you need to be starting this week because last week we go 4 for 6. We're gonna keep a running tally here to see. I mean, we're gonna be responsible. We're gonna be hold ourselves accountable here because I truly think we're gonna go 6 for 6. Final ruling here: are we including J-Mo in the system or no?
Yeah, let's do it. Why not?
Okay, all right. We're going 7 here. So we're going to, I think we're going 6 for 7 at the worst this week. And I feel pretty confident in that. So other than that, though, this has been the Sports Geeks podcast. They play, we talk. Thanks for watching, guys. Peace.